If you remember the 7 pillars, 1 process exercise, that estate and that value-added pillar combined is incredibly powerful. This is a tremendous opportunity for you to confirm your fee worthiness and how indispensable you are to your clients over the lifetime of the relationship and into the next generation. Hey, this is Duncan MacPherson with Pareto Systems. Well, as you can tell, I'm starting to channel my inner flock of seagulls. This is my 80s hair. I mean, I can't get a haircut, right? The hardships. I mean, I'm hoping to maybe run into a hairdresser in a back alley, but until then, this is it. But yeah, just adapting as you are. Lots of phone calls, Skype, WebEx, and very busy, very hopefully productive. And watching what's revealed and what emerges from this. And what's really powerful is you can see the fee for service professionals who are really stepping up. I mean, this is their calling and it's profound. I mean, you can see a few others. I mean, this is kind of their job. And you can tell by the way they talk, right? They talk about high watermarks of the past and dwelling on things that are in the past, you know, how much they earned, and while others are talking about who they become and what all this makes of them and the professional contrast they can achieve and what it all looks like when we come out of it. It's very, very powerful. I'm also seeing the teams, they're telling me, okay, they've had a full rotation. They talked to all of their clients and some things are coming out of that as well. They're starting to segment more deliberately, right? Because you have a group of clients who deserve you, right? The 20% who generate 80% of the business. Then you have the group who needs you, right? They're the 80% who do 20% of the business. And maybe you're going to make some adjustments there, right? Allocate or automate or disassociate and grow down, whatever the case may be. It's a very revealing period. But of course, now you have to start thinking about your evolving messaging. Because as each day goes by, I mean, you can't just say exactly the same thing. It's got to evolve, and especially as statements start to land and reveal what's happened specifically in the previous quarter. So I want you to think in terms of, first of all, the law of resonance. The law of resonance says that the value of what you communicate to somebody begins at the end of the conversation, okay, when they hang up the phone. What are they taking with them? What's the handle they can grab onto? What's really etched in their minds and their hearts, and what can they relay onto somebody else? You can't achieve that meaningfully just through sort of winging it, a stream of consciousness. It has to be deliberate. I know you've got good intentions, but just be a little bit more intentional about your talking points. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is create a mind map, very simply. Okay, so a blank sheet of paper, and right in the center, write 3 Ps, one below the other. And then start attaching talking points to each of the 3 Ps. You know by now that I'm big on making sure that your communication has brevity, specificity, and is proprietary. Okay, so you get to the point. You talk in meaningful specifics. You don't talk about talking about things. And everything ultimately is fueled by what is yours. So what's proprietary to you? Well, it's your philosophy, your planning strategy, and your process. So start attaching those talking points, right? You know the old saying, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Repetition and imprinting is what really etches this into your clients' minds. Okay, so think about your philosophy. Perhaps an extension of your philosophy is that wealth management and risk management has to be hand in glove. And if it's not, it's flawed. Okay, and what that does is put your clients in a strong position. Good decisions are born out of strong positions. Okay, so you're operating from a position of strength. Warren Buffett's philosophy was that when the world is greedy, I get fearful. And when the world is fearful, I get greedy. Some people might say, I don't buy high and hope it goes higher. I buy low and hope it doesn't go lower. Whatever the case may be, just galvanize that on your mind map and make sure every messenger on your team is operating with the same messaging. Okay, so let's talk about planning strategy. Big difference between a financial plan and financial planning. Okay, financial planning is fluid and dynamic. Okay. And part of your financial plan takes into consideration external dependencies. And I'm sure your clients are all fitting into one of three categories. Some view this as an opportunity and they're buying. Some are viewing this with some fear and they're selling. And others are just patient and they're just going to ride this out. Okay. Talk in terms of how you feel and what you believe and what you know. You can't predict the future, but you can invest the past into the future. Okay, so just convey some of that around your planning strategy. And at the end of the day, you can also tell your clients what you are doing personally yourself. I mean, as part of that voice of reason. But just remind them that long-term goals are not achieved through reacting to short-term volatility. Okay, and that, of course, is a byproduct of your planning strategy. Now let's talk about your process. Because your process is panoramic and all-encompassing, and it takes into consideration critical life events and moments of truth, and it also accommodates for what is called future pacing. So remind your clients about the path that they're on and where this is all going as it relates to continuity and succession and family investment legacy. If you remember the 7 pillars, 1 process exercise, that estate and that value-added pillar combined is incredibly powerful. This is a tremendous opportunity for you to confirm your fee worthiness and how indispensable you are to your clients over the lifetime of the relationship and into the next generation. You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation earlier with a real authority in continuity and succession in small business, and that's Tom Deans. He wrote a book called Every Family's Business. We're going to do a podcast a little bit later. He reminded me on our call, by the way, that $2 billion was inherited today and every day. I mean, the amount of money in motion that's going to occur in the next 10 years is going to be colossal, in the trillions. And I want you to get out in front of that. Even though we're dealing with this storm, we're going to come out of this, keep future pacing, and use your process to define that. As you work on yourself personally and professionally, I also encourage you, look at some TED Talks. You might have heard of Brené Brown. I just watched one of her TED Talks recently. You know, talking about courage, talking about vulnerability, talking about authenticity. And I mean, she's a storyteller. Facts tell, stories sell. When you're talking to your clients, you know, use metaphors, use stories. I mean, if your client is a gardener, I mean, tell the story about tulip mania from the 1600s, right? A tulip bulb at its peak was worth the equivalent today of a McLaren sports car. I mean, that's completely irrational. And yet your current financial planning strategy, philosophy, and process has put them in a strong position, right? You can just connect that with a story. If your client likes to travel, use the metaphor of, you know, planning for the unexpected and being able to adapt to situations out of your control. It's not the wind, it's the set of the sail, right? Travelers get that. If you've got a client who's a golfer, I mean, talk about a round of golf and one triple bogey on the scorecard does not define the round or define how good a player that person is. That's just that one window. It's a small box, right? It's only big enough for a number. It doesn't tell the story, but the number doesn't tell the whole story, right? So just really work on your skills and craftsmanship, and you'll emerge with professional contrast and come out of this. Because again, as you've heard me say, the path to self-actualization and the best version of ourselves requires adversity for what it makes of us. Okay, so thanks for watching. This is Duncan MacPherson with Pareto Systems. Until next time, make it a great day. Bye for now.